Hi everyone, welcome to SmugMug Live. This is episode 58. Thank you so much for joining us. I will be joined in a few moments with today's guest, Ant Pruitt. But before then, a couple of things to let you know. As always, this show is brought to you by SmugMug and Flickr. If you're looking for somewhere to showcase and share your images to the world, to store your images in the cloud, or to have an e-commerce solution to sell those images to your customers or clients or family, then check out everything we have to offer at smugmug.com. And if you're looking to be part of an incredible photo community, then check out flickr.com. Thank you for joining. As always, it's lovely to see where you're joining us from today. So give yourself a shout out in the chat window. We'd love to see you there in the chat. And if you have any questions at any point today during the show, again, stick them in that chat window. Start your question with the word question. That way it's easy for me to find them as I'm scrolling through the chat while talking to Ant today. And a big favor to ask you, hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button and a little bell notification. That way you'll be notified whenever we have another episode going live here on SmugMug Live. This is the last episode of this week, and what better way to finish the week on SmugMug Live than to be joined by another great friend. And I'm excited to welcome to the show the one and only Ant Pruitt. Hi Ant, how are you?
Mr. Jolly, what's happening, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Unbelievable as always, sir.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say unbelievable. That's your trademark, right?
I don't know about all that. It just comes out that way.
It just comes out. Unbelievable. And you could take that you could take that two ways, right?
Exactly.
Things are going good or things are going bad. They're unbelievable.
Unbelievably bad some days.
I believe you had an unbelievably bad day yesterday, but we won't jinx anything by talking about technology on the air.
Please don't.
Yeah, we don't want to upset the technology gods while we're live streaming. But Ant, thank you so much for joining us today. I've known you for a little while now. We got introduced by a dear mutual friend, Steve Brazel.
Yeah, Steve's the man. I love that dude.
He's awesome, and he's been here on the show. I think we actually got chatting over a thread about whiskey, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was when we first...
Allegedly, it was about whiskey. I'll say that. Allegedly.
I don't know. Sorry, it wasn't whiskey. No. Dude, I can't tell you how many times we talk about alcohol on this show. It's really bad. Like every so often, it creeps up into the conversation. And we say every so often, like every show.
Every show.
I'm not trying to fill that stereotype of being a Scotsman that drinks whiskey, but... So yeah, it's been great to chat with you on social media and get to know you, and obviously watch your shows. And we've connected and got to know each other now. And here you are on my show. Thank you so much for coming and joining me. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad and honored to be here. I love your show, and I love all of the discussions you've had over the last year. So it seems like it's been a long while. You're 58 episodes in, man. You're doing it up.
Look, this started as a little kind of month-long project. We're going to be stuck indoors due to the pandemic back in March. Hey, right. Let's do some live streaming for a month or two, and here we are. Well, 8 months later, episode 58. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. Yep. I don't know what that means for SmugMug Live, but we'll definitely keep it going for sure. I know people are really enjoying the conversations. And we've got you today to chat to you about your backstory, a little bit how you got into photography. We'll have a look at your images. I think people probably know you best as, well, I probably know you best as the host of Hands-On Photography on the TWiT network.
That's right.
Great show.
Thank you. Yeah, that is the real deal version of living and working your dreams. I am a host at twit.tv, and my primary show is Hands-On Photography, where I like to sit and share different tips and different tricks that are just going to help people learn photography from the very basics, and also just help the person that's an enthusiast that's been shooting for a little while, help them get a little bit better at the craft, whether it's just composition styles and understanding more of the mechanics of the exposure triangle, and even getting into post-processing, because sometimes post-processing can really change your image to create two different stories.
Absolutely. And, we're huge fans of the TWiT.tv network here at SmugMug and Flickr. We've been fortunate enough to be guests on the show from time to time with Leo Laporte.
Yeah, he's a big fan of SmugMug.
yeah, he is. And, drop a word. Tell him he can come talk to me on the show. That would be cool.
I got you.
No, today's all about you. Hands-on photography. It's a great show. And what I love about it most is just and it's not just the show. Like the Ant Pruitt I know is this guy who just loves to share information and share to his community, give, insights into those tips and tricks that are things that you've learned the hard way. Yeah. And sharing that on. What made you decide that you wanted to share this information and, be so giving to the community?
Well, it's a little more than 10 years ago when I started to get really serious about the art of photography, because I've always dinked around with the camera here and there as a teenager and as someone in my 30s or whatnot. And when I decided to get more serious, I said, you know what, I need to look into different resources to learn more. And I felt the best way to do that was to check out the local working photographers right there in my own backyard. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina area, and there's a lot of good photographers there. But when it came to getting information and learning this and learning that, the community was really, really rude, and it just bugged me. I didn't always have the best camera, best equipment, and all of that stuff. And that's because I couldn't afford it. But that didn't mean I couldn't have the desire to go out and try to create great images. And I always had this feeling like I was being, just brushed away because I'm shooting with this old point and shoot, or I was shooting with a smartphone. At the time, the Motorola Droid X, that smartphone, was the one that really sort of pushed me over the edge to say, you know what, I need to start shooting more. And I don't even care if it's with the smartphone camera, just start shooting more and start, diving more into this art. But again, the community at that time was like, you shouldn't be using a smartphone, or you need to be using a prime lens, or, whatever. And I'm like, I don't have all of that. So I just continued to work at it on my own. And my little small circle of friends started to notice I was taking decent photographs, and they would ask how I did it. And I said, you know what, I will tell you. So I just kept doing that. The more people asked, the more I would share.
Yeah. So, it's unfortunate that some of that, shall we call it snobbery? That's maybe too nice a word for it, that comes into, not just the photography art world. Every niche of life, every genre has that kind of snobbery when it comes to it. But it's a huge benefit to us that you've decided to be the complete opposite and share that information, and your community really respects you for it. And I know the photography community as a whole has changed dramatically since I started taking photography, and yourself.
It's night and day.
It is night and day. It used to be a bunch of old bald white guys, but I fall in that category now, so I need to be careful. But
you're not old, you're oldish.
Well, we'll move on quickly. They used to keep all those secrets to themselves because they were all kind of paranoid that you were going to steal their careers from you. Now the industry, in many ways, couldn't be any more different. The day-to-day basis of the photography community is about being together and, sharing and elevating each other. And, I had a photography teacher at school who was a huge influence in my life long before I realized I was going to have a career in it. But he used to say, and a lot of folk use this phrase, he didn't invent it, but he was the one that said it to me, a rising tide raises all ships. And I think that's really what is great about the photography community now. Just look at the back catalogue of people we've had on this show, willing to give out information and share, knowing that somewhere down the line they'll reap the rewards of that because the community as a whole is stronger. So
I totally agree. It seems like now you do see a lot more of the sharing of content from every photographer, whether it's someone that's fairly new to it or it's a seasoned veteran, if you will. They're all sharing out techniques and styles more and more now. And it's so refreshing because I sit back and I think, man, I really wish I had that kind of vibe presented to me, a decade ago, but it's okay. I was able to push through it. And again, I took it upon myself and said, you know what, if I ever have the opportunity to help someone get better at this craft, I'm going to tell it. Now, the start of it was a little rough for me because I didn't know the best way to present it out. And I got into just creating blog posts to see if that would help. And then I started creating little tutorials on my personal YouTube channel. And then back in the days of Google Plus, I created a smartphone photographers community because I knew everybody didn't have the big DSLRs and things like that, but almost everybody had a smartphone. I think at the time when I started it, the iPhone 4 was the most popular camera used on Flickr.com at the time. So I said, you know what, well, let's just try to do something to help people get even better, and created that smartphone photographers community. And again, within that community, there was even more sharing of knowledge, not just from me, but from the other community members, because they just took their experiences and passed it along. And we just tried to ride that wave and just get more people creating.
Yeah, and we're just about to look at what we call the kind of year in review at Flickr, where we look at all the kind of stats of what's happened over 2020 on Flickr. And, there's been a huge growth in all photography, especially as most of us are, kind of stuck at home or, finding time to do photography that we maybe haven't before. But it'll be no surprise that, by far, the most, used device to take photographs is still Apple devices, Apple iPhones. So and they're phenomenal now. The new iPhone 12. Oh my goodness! I wish I had a camera that good. When I was working professionally, it was
right.
It's incredible. So
and it does a lot of the work for you on the back end. All you do is just click the shutter.
Yeah. Still got to know what you're taking, but if you know what you're doing, the camera just on a phone doesn't hold you back anymore. It's phenomenal. So you had this poor experience that led you to want to share more and get involved in communities and help communities. You mentioned there that you use blogs and YouTube. And how did you find ideas to put into your shows? What were what were the stories you were telling at that point?
Most of it started out with a problem. Okay, so if I was just out randomly shooting something and I found a problem with that composition, or a problem with trying to actually capture that shot, that was something that I took down as a mental note to say, you know what, if I figure this mess out, I need to share this with someone. I need to share how I was able to overcome it. And a good example is it snows, in the Carolinas. The Carolinas is fortunate to have all of the seasons year round. So there was a time it was snowing outside and it was beautiful. And you, as a pro photographer, know it can be pretty challenging to shoot outside in the snow, especially if it's a well lit day in the snow because of the crazy reflections. And think about doing that with a smartphone at the time that didn't have the computational photography that we have today in 2020. You end up with some crazy overexposed images or some underexposed images, and you can't really tell what's going on. So every time I came across a situation like that, that was the fuel to put into a blog post or put into the community to talk about it amongst ourselves and present it out to other people that wanted to join the community. So yeah, it all started with, here's a problem. This is how we got through it.
What a great way to to find subject matters for your show, you know, solve your own problems and take people on that journey and help them on the way. We kind of titled this show "Comparing Yourself to Yourself,"
Right.
which is a theme that I hear you talk about a lot, like about you know, how to grow in this genre, in this industry, in the correct way. What kind of made you want to go down that direction of titling this show that way, but also giving out that message to your audience?
Well, the main thing is I think is because of what internet and social media has done to our society, especially from the content creator standpoint. You can say the word influencer to pretty much anybody in the world, and they'll get a specific vision of what that means. And it usually means some very loud, some very famous person that has some type of product, some type of tangible product or idea to push out and influence you. And a lot of creators that are just getting started, especially in the photography world, they are aiming to be an influencer. And I wish people wasn't doing that. I'd rather people aim to first get very good at their craft, number one, and just get better at it. And then worry about the whole notoriety of being very good at your craft later on. Because in my opinion, the term influencer is about like viral. And quite frankly, viral isn't forever. I want longevity for all of these photographers out there. I want longevity for the people that are picking up the camera for the first time and wanting to take serious steps to making a career out of it. You look at some of your favorite photographers. I can think of, say, Trey Ratcliffe or Glenn Dewis, two different photographers with two different sets of pathways that they took to get to their level of success that they have right now. And neither one of them just stuck with the whole viral perspective of being a successful photographer. They just worked at their craft, looked at themselves to figure out what they need to do better. Yeah, they checked out other photographers' work and, you know, saw how well they were doing and say, that's an interesting style. Maybe I should try that. But I guarantee you, they didn't beat themselves up when they didn't get as many likes on their photograph versus another photographer getting so many more likes.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's something we at Flickr see a huge difference between our community and others. You know, you've been on Flickr a long time, and
yeah,
you know, it's
Flickr was my family photo album way. I started a Flickr account because it was so much easier to share my photos through Flickr to a bunch of people that were not tech savvy.
Yeah.
And the images actually looked the way they were supposed to look. They wasn't all compressed and crunchy and full of artifacts. It just works. Like if you go and look at my Flickr account right now, you'll notice the URL says Pruitt family.
Yeah.
Because it was great for that.
It's
so
a great
yeah,
place,
I've been on Flickr for a long time.
Yeah, but one of the huge parts of that community, and something I love dearly about it, long before I was part of the team, was the support network, the motivation, the inspiration, and people aren't just there for the likes. You know, they're there to learn, to be inspired, or to inspire others and motivate people.
Right.
And you know, it's just a great place to learn, to ask those questions, to find out how to photograph snow with an iPhone. It's all there. If you want to find anything, you know, to do with your problem or your genre or the photography that you love, there's definitely an opportunity to find that community on Flickr. So comparing yourself to yourself, so not doing it to please other people,
right,
straight out the bat, you know, and taking those steps to improve within yourself so that you're a better photographer, which ultimately then means people will like your work potentially. Anyway.
Yeah, you can give yourself a challenge, and it doesn't have to be a super elaborate challenge. You can just set a challenge for a week or set a challenge for a month to take a specific type of photograph every day and compare the results of day 1 versus day 7, and see if you're improving on the composition, see if you're improving on being able to lock the focus better. And if you're doing post processing or anything like that, see if your post processing has changed within the week. You'll be able to see more of a variation after a month or so. But again, you take those notes with yourself to figure out where you're going and if you're progressing, and then you can sort of focus on, okay, I'd like to be able to do this a little bit better for this type of photograph, or I'd like to try to understand the concepts of how is the light falling at this particular time of day for this photograph. And you'll start to see yourself growing just from asking yourself those tough questions that most people that are enjoying the art, they don't ask. They just know that they enjoy the art. But you'll see yourself start to grow and start to progress, and you'll feel your curiosity just start to go wild each and every day. The more you pick up the camera and just do the work and do the muscle memory, if you will, just going through it.
Yeah, and doing that muscle memory and taking lots of photographs, there's no excuse not to nowadays. I'm going to sound like an old dinosaur by saying back in my day, when I started, it cost you money every time you pressed the button, and then you had to get the film exposed, and you didn't have any notes on the film. Nowadays you have all that metadata. You even have the GPS location. So really studying your craft and working on your craft, it's an enviable time to be doing it, because you can just take so many photographs and practice and have all that information at hand. Where was the focus point, what exposure was it, what shutter speed was this one compared to that one. So great time to be alive and learning.
I don't know where everybody is from that's joining us live and in the chat room, but I guarantee most of them probably wake up each day and have a cup of coffee at somewhere at around the same time of day, more than likely. That's an opportunity right there. Your cup of coffee. Take that cup of coffee and sit it down on the counter before you have a sip. Snap a photo. It can be as random as you want, but note the time of day. Note how the light is hitting that cup of coffee at that time. And then do it again later on in the week at the same spot. And if this time of day is different, see how the light changes. And that didn't cost you anything but about, 5 minutes of time in your week just to snap those two different images to see the differences. And you'll start to, get a little curious and say, well, what happens if I move the mug to this side of the room? What happens if I have the room a little bit cooler? I bet that steam is going to come off of that coffee and look even better because the room is colder. Just little stuff like that. And another thing that I tried to tell folks was during this pandemic, a lot of people it's unfortunate, they have to work from home or just have to stay home. They're not making that commute every day. And where I'm from, at one time when I was actually going back and forth on a commute, it was about an hour a day of commute going to work or coming back from work. That was an hour a day that I lost. And if I went to work 5 days that week, I lost 5 hours just from driving. Why not take those 5 hours and put it into something creative, like trying to figure out a better composition for that coffee mug?
Indeed. And then by the end of it, you're nicely caffeinated as well. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, you're sharp then.
And that 2-hour commute in San Francisco, that typically means like 12 miles.
Right. You'd really win a couple blocks.
Although not nowadays. I hear it's a lot better at the moment because we're all working at home. But So where are you at the moment? Are you in California now?
Yes, I am now in California, just outside of San Francisco in Petaluma, California. This is the wine country, if you will.
Yeah. We must meet up when I'm next back in San Francisco, because we're definitely not far apart. When I'm at HQ, I'll have to pop up to the brick house and see you at the TWiT studios. I love that idea of when you're in a daily routine, something that you do every day. I've spoke about this on a previous show. I think it was with Bella and Pratik when they joined me. When I first started taking photography seriously, I used to photograph teddy bears in two teddy bears. I had a white teddy bear and a black teddy bear. And I used to move them around the garden, around the house in different light, just seeing how the exposure changed and the contrast changed between a white subject and a black subject.
Yeah. Predominantly
because I was wanting to move into the wedding industry where you're going to have traditionally a bride in a white gown and, you know, a guy in a black kilt or a black dinner suit or something like that. So I wanted to work out how light affected that contrast. And it was so simple, just moving that same subject. So the only variable was, you know, the light, the exposure, you know, the settings of the camera, and just really analyzing that. And, you know, you can do it with anything, as you say, coffee, or, you know, the light on a wall as it affects a shadow for, you know, flowers or something that you have in your home. You know, how light plays through a whiskey bottle and a glass sitting next to it. I think you've done
the
one
whiskey
of those.
mention.
I'm sure you took that photograph very recently. I know we've all been dabbling in it, but there's so many things around the home. Kids, if you have them, if you can tie them down for a few moments, and not literally, but and take some pictures.
Depends on if your kids are as bad as mine were when they were little.
Do you still have kids at home?
Yes, I do. I have a high school senior and a high school freshman here.
Yeah, I just moved into the teenage years a few months ago, having some fun at home now. But yeah, you know, I'm gonna go on a tangent and talk about the kids. My kids used to be, they're my favorite subject. I have so many tens of thousands of pictures of my kids, and it's devastating now that they're at the stage where they say, no, I don't want a picture. It's
oh, wow. See, my boys are on the opposite end of the spectrum. One in particular, when they were younger, they were a part of a lot of the photographs, and they were sort of indifferent about it. But my high school freshman, you know, he's really into this fashion stuff and whatnot. And if I say I'd like to set up a shoot downstairs at random, just because I'm trying to do the work, I'm trying to work out, you know, and keep my muscles toned. And he's all in. He'll jump in and he'll grab the backdrops and everything and get the lights. Awesome. And because he's like, I want those shots, Dad. You know, go ahead and shoot them, and then you send them to me so I can put them up on Snapchat and whatever.
Snapchat profiles and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you're lucky now. My son just, like, unless he gets a new pair of sneakers, and then he's like, oh, let's take a picture. Just of the sneakers, not of him. But I mean, there's another subject matter. You know, shoes, sneakers, all those kind of things that lie around the house. And it might sound crazy, you know, photographing jewelry or shoes or flowers, but that was a huge part of my job when I was a wedding photographer. You had to photograph all the details of the wedding. You had to photograph shoes, you had to photograph the jewelry and the dresses and the flower details, all those things. So yeah, get practicing on just anything around the house. It doesn't matter ultimately what the subject looks like. It's all about, how does the light look on it? How does the exposure look? How does the shadows fall? And then when you get to you know, a situation where it's for real and there's something you really need to take a photograph, then that muscle memory comes into play.
Yeah, it comes in second nature. You know, I've shot my family so often. If we're out in public and we want to do a group photo or something like that, they already naturally know how to turn properly towards the light without even asking. You know, they just say, oh, wait a minute, the light's over here, and they'll turn the right way because they don't want to be in shadow or silhouette or anything like that, you know, because they've seen me move them and position them, you know, how I'd like them to be positioned in a photograph. And it's just all second nature now.
Cool. I'm going to trade families with you. I think I'll send mine right over. Right. This is a photography show. So shall we look at some photography?
Yeah, sure.
You've been very kind to send through some images, which kind of, I think they chart some of your progression in your career. So
Yeah.
we'll fire up this first one and we can have a little chat about this.
Sure. Well, this shot here, this was a long exposure project that I had that I'd set for myself. I didn't realize it was 2015. It feels like it was a lot longer than that. And I remember setting this frame up and thinking, okay, I want to make the water look as smooth as possible to where it's like glass, so that reflection will naturally be there and I don't have to worry about a lot of work in Photoshop. But I want it to glow a little bit, so I know I need to have my shutter speed just right. And I think the image came out okay. It's not, I don't think it's awesome, but I don't think it's bad either. And I looked at that shot and remember how proud I was at the moment. But then, a year later, I look back at it or looking at it right now, I'm thinking, yeah, I could have done a little bit better. That tree on the left frame there could be a little bit more and focused, or at least done some selective adjustments on it, And if you look at image 2 that I sent you, it's another comparison of just playing around with long exposure, where I figured out the better composition of getting the camera lower to the ground and getting the timing of the vehicle going past me, drawing the viewer's eyes from left to right up through the frame, because it's just a better experience for the viewer. And again, it's not the best image, but it is a decent experience and it still gives a story of movement. And that's just something that I had to learn over a year or so of trying to figure out how to get this all into a frame that people are going to look at on their phones, a tiny phone, and have them scrolling, but they stop scrolling when they see that. And
Light
again,
trails,
it's just something.
Sorry, light trails is a great example of a subject that is so readily available to practice on.
Right.
Any evening, there's always traffic moving around, but there's a lot of photography skills that come into play just to get light trails. Exposure, shutter speed, length of that exposure, the composition, there's so much just in that single, fairly simplistic image to practice, and it's something that I'd highly recommend to anybody. One of my favorite images is of a London bus, a traditional red London bus coming through the frame with Big Ben behind, and you can't really tell it's a bus other than this big red blur across the screen, But I was able to get that because I'd practiced, just on cars in the street outside the house, and the neighbors think you're crazy, but there's that guy that photographs teddy bears. A while. Yeah,
trust me, they get used to it. If they know that you're an aspiring photographer and they see that you're constantly shooting, they get used to it. Yeah, I've had those interesting conversations with neighbors over the years, and eventually they just sort of grin and smile, and heck, sometimes they'll even pose for you and help you out.
Yeah, I'm sure my neighbors were like, man, that's that guy that photographs the teddy bears all over the place. Now he's in the middle of the street photographing cars. What's he doing?
What is wrong with this guy?
Get a job.
Now, see, image 3 is a prime example of what you were just talking about. Yep. Now, this shot, again, long exposure, and this was taken just a couple of years ago. I think this was 2018. I can't remember for sure. But at the time, I was in Shanghai, China, and I knew I wanted to shoot long exposure of the street, but I took advantage of the fact that there are buses that goes up and down that particular street. And so I waited, and again, that comes back to comparing yourself with your old self. And, my old self wouldn't have waited around. My old self wouldn't have scouted out the scene to figure out the best point of view, but I knew to wait for that particular set of buses to come through, because those buses are already lit up with the windows on the inside, the lights on the outside, and they're going to go fairly fast. And if my shutter speed is just slow enough, it's going to give me a cool effect. And I waited, and sure enough, it looks like a bit of a ghost
Yeah,
going across the screen, and it's pretty interesting for people to see it.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was just talking about a bus, and there you go. This is your next shot is of that exact same kind of setup. But here you are in a foreign country with probably not a lot of time on your hands, and you're able to get it because you've practiced at home. You've practiced the skills, and you know what to do before you get to, you know, the location where you have to pull it off quickly, and you're able to do that because you've practiced and practiced.
Yep. I got lucky with this shot. There's a funny story tied to this. As I was walking down that street, if you can imagine me walking the streets of China, I stuck out like a sore thumb. It was almost like I had a force field around me. As I'm walking down the sidewalks, the sea would part. People would just push away. I don't know if it's because I was so much larger than everybody or what, but it was sort of funny to see that. And when I sat down on this corner, the police officer outside saw me, and he was looking at me, you know, sort of inquisitively. And I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm in trouble. I probably can't sit here and shoot this. And he walks over to me, not speaking any English, of course, and he just yells at me, "Big," like that. And I'm like, what? He just yells, "Big." And then he flexes and he does like a, you know, a power lifter move or something, just sort of flexing. And he smiled and laughed, pointed at the camera, gave me a thumbs up, and went on about his business.
There you go. It's funny you mentioned there you were lucky getting the shot. It's a phrase I use all the time. I'm a great believer. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
That's true. That's true.
It's not luck. It's hard work. You were in the right place at the right time.
The right time.
You made the effort, and you'd practice your skill set, and then when it happened, you got the shot. So it's not luck. It's hard work.
And then image 4 is something I wanted to share because I've always wanted to shoot sports, but I've never really been able to get the opportunity to shoot sports. And this photograph is taken from my seat in the stands, because at the time I was a season ticket holder, and I'm using a APS-C Canon Rebel with a kit 250 millimeter lens. So it's not the quote unquote highest quality camera or whatever, but to my advantage, I've been to so many of our football games. I've almost predicted our offense and can understand what's going to happen when these particular plays come up. And I was ready. I knew that number 13 was going to be right there at a certain time. And I had my frame lined up and watching him the whole time. And the shutter speed was super fast. I want to say it was right around like 1/500th of a second at least. And snapped the frame, and I was able to pull that off from my seat. And it's just, again, preparation and just understanding over time, being in the right place when you need to be.
Absolutely. I'm going to show my ignorance. What team is that?
Clemson University, the Clemson Tigers.
Clemson Tigers.
My all-time favoriteest team.
I'm a huge American football fan.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I've never heard that from Europeans. You're the first to say
kidding?
that.
Oh, no.
I'm dead serious. You are the first to say that to me.
NFL is huge over here now. You know, there's actually regular season games in London. I think there's 4 games now a season.
Right.
No, it's a huge sport over here. Not from a playing perspective, but from an audience perspective.
Right.
Yeah, we're huge fans of it. I used to go watch a local team, the Claymores, the Scottish Claymores, as they're known.
Scottish Claymores, man, I remember them.
That's
part of the World League, I believe.
Yeah, loved it for years, and yeah, it's hugely popular over here. In fact, I don't know, it's obviously not happening this season, but last year down in London, every time there was a game on, the whole of like the main shopping area, Oxford Street, would be covered in the flags of all the teams that were playing and stuff. So yeah,
oh, that's awesome, man.
Huge.
I would have never guessed it.
I think they play at Wembley Stadium. You know, the main stadium.
Yeah.
So
man, huge. That's awesome.
Huge.
I would have
Never
ever guess
photographed it. I would love to photograph that. So
Yeah, I've always wanted to be on the sidelines.
hmm
I know a couple of the Clemson University photographers, but they could never get me on the sidelines, unfortunately. So I had to do what I had to do with this shot and just make the most of it. And I still dig it. It's one of my favorites still.
well, what you have to say is you have to say, oh, do you know who I am? I'm an influencer.
Oh, right, right. And they will just run away after that. You say those words.
Hello, security. Yeah.
Now, some people ask me what my favorite style of shooting is, and it's street photography. That's my all-time favorite. And what I love about it is there's always a story out there if you can figure out your timing. And when I first started shooting street photography, it was more so about just people standing around. But then I learned that if I go out there at lunchtime, people are going to be standing around chatting amongst themselves with other people. They're going to have stories to tell each other verbally, but you can pick up those stories with your lens, just capturing the shot. Or, for instance, this one here, this is at the end of the day and people are ready to go home, and you notice everybody is like, look, I'm so tired. It's been a long day. Can this traffic please clear so I can get across the street? And everybody sort of has the same emotion. Everybody has the phones. Everybody has the earbuds. And it just tells a much more captivating story based on what we see here day to day in the city. And I say, if you can get yourself together to go out and shoot street photography, take some time to try to understand what's happening in that area and what's happening that day of the week. If it's a weekend, it's going to be a different look. If it's the middle of the day at lunchtime, when people have had a couple morning meetings that didn't go very well, you're going to see some different emotions, and you can take advantage of that. But another thing about street photography, and if you hop to image number 7, this was a time that I stepped out. No, that's 6. Go to the next one. This shot here. This was a time that I stepped out in a town called Reston. No, this is in Maryland. I can't remember the city name, but it was in Maryland. And I wasn't too enthused, but I knew I wanted to go and shoot. But I just wasn't enthused about the area and think that I would find something. And I sat out there for about an hour and a half, just walking around this little town. And this shot right here presented itself to me, and it made my day because it just showed so much love. And at the time, I was battling with some things emotionally and battling with some things mentally. And just being able to capture that moment of this mother and her child just displaying unconditional love, it just really fired me up and set me off. I ended up doing a whole vlog about all of this and everything. And it's just, again, even if you think the the environment is not quite what you hoped it would be, stick it out. The old Ant Pruitt would have just packed his bags, jumped in the car, and drove back home. But instead, I kept my backpack on and I kept walking around, and this was presented to me. So compare your old self to, hey, Ant would have just jumped in the car and just left. Leave that behind, stick it out and learn from those past mistakes, and you'll get shots like that.
Yeah, it's incredible the effect that taking that one great shot can have on you, not just at that moment, but, for a long time afterwards. It's a bit like playing golf, it just takes that one great
one shot,
and it keeps you coming back for more. The rest of it can be crap, but that one great shot, I'm lucky if I get one good shot, but it's what makes you come back. And the photography is like that. You can, I love street photography like yourself. It's something I thoroughly enjoy doing, something I'm missing actually. I'm very fortunate to travel so much typically, but not this year. So, but I love street photography, and some days it's just not gelling. It's just not happening for you. And then you get a moment, as you say, like this one, and suddenly you're in the zone. And I bet there was other shots after this that suddenly
Oh,
appeared.
it just kept coming after that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I get a little bit of a chill thinking about it right now, because I remember exactly how I felt that day. This was in the summertime, so it was a little bit hot and humid, because in the Maryland and DC area, it can be pretty muggy and humid. So I wasn't in the best of moods because I wasn't getting anything, and I'm out there sweating like crazy. But after that happened, it just, I remember just the lift that it gave me. And I just continued to walk around and just saw so many other cool things at that little tiny venue. I wish I could remember the name of it but now I can't. I'm so sorry about that.
It'll come to you as soon as we finish the show. You'll be like,
Of course.
or you'll wake up in the middle of the night screaming the name of some small town.
And but I don't want to take up much of your time, but there was one more shot that I hope we could show. And this is shot number 10. And this makes me think about people.
Which one is it?
Shot number 10.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers showing up at the moment, unfortunately. What's
okay.
the subject matter?
It's right after the guy with the computer.
Oh, okay. This one.
That's the one. That shot right there. A lot of people, when they're starting out with photography, they think about, how can I turn this into a career? And as we've discussed here at length, that first you got to just keep shooting and keep practicing and keep working at your craft. And then you have to be able to market yourself and say, hey, look, I'm Ant Pruitt. I like to shoot awesome photographs and make you look great. And this is what I can provide. You literally have to be able to say that to someone, look them in the face and say that. Because if you can look someone in the eye and say that, you can do it online too. Okay. So get comfortable with doing that. This scenario right here, I was out just shooting at the river because I wanted to get some nice river shots for stock photography, and had my drone out and everything. And this gentleman here was out on his awesome, what do you call those? Not a sea-doo, jet ski.
Yeah.
He was out on his jet ski, and I felt like, you know what? I can make this guy a customer. And I just had to go and sell myself for half a second. I say, hey, look, I've been watching you out here having a good old time practicing and just doing these trick shots and things, trick moves and things like that. And I said, how about you allow me to take a couple snaps of you, and you can put these on your profile and you can use this for your own marketing. And he said, oh, really? You're a photographer? I said, yeah. And he said, well, okay, well, let's set up some things. And I handed him a card, and he set up some trick shots, and boom, it was done. That was a customer right then and there, and got paid for it. So sweet. A lot of times you can be in the right spot at the right time, but every now and then you do have to be comfortable with saying, you know what, I'm pretty good at what I do, and this is what I can offer you with my service, where it's going to help you and it's going to help me as a professional photographer. So don't shy away from those opportunities, especially when they come off as quite fun and candid as this shot did.
Yeah. I got to ask, did he land it?
Oh, he did. He did. It doesn't look like it, but he did.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't quite look like he has enough rotation going on there, but
yeah, he did. He did it probably 3 or 4 times. And I want to say I shot a video of that as well. Some with the drone and things like that, because he was just having fun, he appreciated the fact that, you know what, I got some content that I can put out there, because he does that stuff professionally, apparently. And it just something that he could use for his own marketing. It just worked out great for both of us.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely looks like he knows what he's doing, or completely doesn't know what he's doing, maybe. That's great. Thank you to those of you who have been posting some questions. Nothing too tricky, so I'll get those questions to you. And
sure.
Frequent watcher of the show, Gary Monroe, asks a question: is there a shot in your head you feel a need to get but haven't been able yet, either because of opportunity or things didn't click?
Wow. There are shots that I would love to get of certain celebrities in my eyes, some local people that I wanted to get, like in local government, or even some of the people that I'm fans of. And I wish I could get the opportunity to shoot those. Those are the only things that I say, man, I really, really wish I could get that shot. But most other things that pop up in my head, I just go out and shoot, period. But I'd love to get a shot of, Jason Levine from Adobe.
Yep.
I've gotten some great photos of him on stage live at Adobe Max, and he's actually gotten one or two from me that he's just loved. And I'm so honored to be able to call him a friend. But I wish that I could just get a portrait session of Jason Levine in the studio being Jason Levine.
I have hair envy of Jason Levine.
Yes. He is such a great man, and talk about somebody that wants to just give back to the creative community. Yeah. That guy.
Yeah, Jason's a great guy with a wonderful head of hair, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Another question here from James Lafferty. Hi, James. Thanks for the question. When you're doing street photography, do you ever get pushback from people on the street? If so, how do you handle it?
Yes. This has to be addressed. I don't typically like to go here much, but it does have to be addressed. Where I was from in the South, in Charlotte, North Carolina, I dealt with a lot of racism because I'm a big, bald, black dude. It is what it is. But I was able to use my enthusiasm and just my personality as far as photography to be able to diffuse those uncomfortable situations with street photography. When I go out to shoot, 9 times out of 10, pretty much every time, I am wearing bright colors. I am wearing orange because I want to be seen. I don't want to be in a situation where someone can accuse me of doing something nefarious because it looks like I'm hiding. And I never really wanted to be that way. So that's the first thing. They see me out there on the streets. Social media has gotten people to be a little bit more guarded while they're out there because everybody's got a camera phone and things like that. And when they see a photographer, especially if they're out there shooting with a 70 to 200 millimeter lens, they get real tense. But what I've found in the past is for those people that have an issue with me at the time, I look them straight in the eye and say, hey, no, I don't mean any disrespect. And I'm just out here taking photographs. And this is what I do. I'm not here to profit off you or anything like that. And just about every single time it led to them saying, oh, really? They smile and they will pose for me, but you just have to be genuine about it because people have what I call a natural bullshit filter. They know if you're bullshitting them, but if you're genuine, they'll tend to support that. And there's been a lot of situations where I said, hey, you know what? I've been standing over here taking some photographs and you've been sitting over here on this bench and the way the light has been hitting you, it's a great shot. Do you mind if I take a couple photos of you? And they would say, yeah, sure, go ahead. And I'd knock it out. Or if I'm walking along and I see something as I'm walking and we lock eyes, I'll wink at them or nod or something like that. And they tend to nod or wink back and I just click the frame, So it's all in just how genuine you are, at least in my experience. Be genuine about it and then make sure that you're quite visible, Don't look like you're out there trying to steal a shot.
Yeah, eye contact, I think, is a huge thing in street photography. I know a lot of street photography, a lot of people, they don't want that interaction. They want it to be very candid. But if you are in that situation where somebody, clocks what you're doing and has issue with it, then eye contact and a smile can go a long way. And it's insane that we have to talk about racism within any part of culture, but within art and photography. And I know I've had issues with street photography interactions, and I come from the privilege of being a white guy, so I can only imagine. Unfortunately, I can imagine the difficulties you perhaps encounter and do encounter. So we need to change that, and we need to educate people that photography is a passion, an art form, and it's legal. And just chill out. But Yeah, there's no place for racism.
None.
And, I'm delighted to see that SmugMug and Flickr are anti-racist. So, hopefully those situations change for people younger than ourselves coming up in the world of photography. And that's a great segue to this next question, because it comes from someone going by the name of The Legend, which is a great name. And he says,
Love it.
and they say, I'm 18 and just got into photography. It's been a year. Any tips on how I could turn it into my profession?
Keep shooting. Keep shooting. You have to build a body of work. If you don't have a body of work to be able to present to a paying customer, they're not going to pay you. So you need to keep shooting. You need to keep practicing. The old adage is practice makes perfect, but you don't want to have bad practice. Practice to get better. Some people practice some really, really bad habits. Don't do that. Practice to get better. We talked about earlier in the show of just those weekly challenges or a monthly challenge where you can see the progression over time. That's going to do it. Keep shooting.
Yeah, get that muscle memory. You say you're into photography, so I'm assuming you have a camera at this point. Just use it every day, constantly. There's no cost involved nowadays with digital of constantly shooting and analyzing those pictures, but just go for it. And I'll give you a word of advice. Probably the things that you love photographing now may not turn out to be the things that you photograph professionally for a living.
Right.
I know for a fact both Ant and I wanted to be professional photographers photographing Formula One motorsport.
F1.
Didn't turn out that way for either of us, but just try everything. Try every genre of photography: portraits, landscapes, wildlife, sport, and just find out what you love and find out where the opportunities are, and constantly take the opportunity to talk about photography to people, because you never know when that person on a jet ski is going to become a client.
Right. I had the whole influencer world and the whole social media world will tell you that your Instagram page, for example, should look a certain way. You should have a nice 3x3 grid of this type of image and this type of color tones because it's more aesthetically pleasing to people staring at your profile. I say, no, shoot what you want to shoot and put it out there, whatever you want to put out there. If you love it, put it out there. A lot of people think that they have to niche down. They have to strictly be a landscape photographer. They have to strictly be a portrait photographer. That's fine if you want to do that, but you don't have to. I found myself being in a position to where if someone needs portraits, I can shoot portraits. If someone is looking for a beautiful landscape of the bay here, I have the skill set to go and find that shot that's going to be something that they're going to pay for. I was presented with an opportunity a couple of years ago where an NBA player had a charity event in Charlotte, North Carolina, and his representative asked if I would shoot their red carpet and shoot the event. I've never shot red carpet in my life, but I said, you know what? I can shoot portraits. I can shoot street photography. I'm going to gel those skills together, and it worked. And I made it work and got paid quite nicely for it too. So yeah, don't try to pigeonhole yourself into it. Find what you like, but definitely try to make sure you have some type of balance of other skills as well.
Yep. Getting paid for it, that's an important part of being a professional. Learn some business skills, learn how to charge for your work, be proud of charging for your work. I was going to say believe in yourself, but the fact that you already call yourself the legend, I think you've nailed that. You've nailed that part of it already. So
great name.
Yeah, they say thank you and you're more than welcome. Right, we're going to wrap it up with the most important question. Gary Monroe's posted another question and he says, it's the most important question for photographers. Music while you edit, yes or no? And if yes, what?
Yes. And particularly it's classical theatrical scores or smooth jazz. And there's also whiskey involved with editing. It's a must. I mean, I am at my desk right now, and
Oh, did we have something sitting there?
there's one.
Macallan. This show's not sponsored, so we need to be careful.
No, it's not sponsored, but then there's also another bottle here, and I won't show the name.
I
But
think it's a bottle.
yeah, so there's usually jazz music or theatrical classical music and whiskey while I edit.
For me, yes, love music, and typically something along the lines of music scores, Hans Zimmer, or something along those lines, so that it's somewhat background, kind of zoned out type stuff. But general music, I'm a heavy metal fan all the way. But there you go.
Nice.
Gary, let us know your answer. Oh, he says good answer. Yeah, but you need to let us know what whether you listen to music or not and what you listen to. But that's a great question. I do love. We've spoke about music before on the show with the likes of Tina Ison and Bella Kotak and Lara Jade when they're in the studio photographing models in the studio. Do you have music on? And they said yes, because it can create a whole different vibe. It can put people.
Yeah, it gives them energy.
It gives them energy, or puts them in the mood of, sets the scene for that kind of look that you're looking for and all that type of stuff. Yep. It's hugely influential. Oh, Gary, there you go. That's a great answer. He says, I'm a silent editor. There you go.
Wait, there's no talking in Gary's edit bay? Is that what he mean?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Gary, I can't do the silent edit thing because all I hear is me cursing at myself. Listen, this has been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for agreeing to come hang out with me for an hour and just talk about your photography, and hopefully we've inspired some people. I know you inspire people on a daily basis. If people want to, you're very trying. If people want to find out a little bit more about yourself, where can they go? We've already mentioned, and I want to give a huge plug to the hands-on photography show that you do on the TWiT network. That's where I would love people to go check out the work that you do. But where else can people find you?
Sure, you can. I'm pretty active over on the Twitterverse. I am Ant_Pruitt on Twitter. I put pretty much all of my content over there one way or another, whether it's my blog posting or my YouTube videos, because I try to do at least one YouTube video a week based on content creation or just a random vlog or something like that. But yeah, follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, same handle, Ant_Pruitt.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and really appreciate it. As always, if you've been watching the show, make sure you hit that little subscribe button. If I hit the right camera, hit that little subscribe button, hit that bell notification. That way you'll be notified whenever we release another episode here on the show. We will be back next week with a great show on Tuesday. Stay tuned for some more information on that. You will see it coming up on our social channels. Thank you to those who have participated in the chat window. It's always great to see you in there talking and sharing, and as Gary says, talking and listening to the voices in your head. The legend says they will follow you, drop you a follow on Instagram.
Thank you. I think I recognize Gary Monroe. It seems like I've seen that avatar in my feed somewhere.
Yeah, Gary is a great supporter of many shows we've been on. I'm sure I've seen him on Steve Razzle's show and stuff. So thank you, Gary. Appreciate your support on all our various channels. But for now, we will let you get back to whatever your day has in store for you. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is truly an honor. I'm serious. I was so pumped up to be able to be on this show with you. Thank you so much.
It's great, man. It's just a little show, and we appreciate you being on it, and hopefully we will see you back here in the future and give us another update on what's been happening and what whiskey you're drinking at the time.
Anytime.
Wherever you are in the world, have a great day, stay safe, be kind, look after each other, and we will see you back here for another episode of SmugMug Live. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.